Hi, my name is Holly Vandiver. I will be presenting Does Multitasking Impair Studying? Depends on Timing. This is by Harold Pashler, Sean Kang, and Renita Ip from the Department of Psychology, University of California, San Diego, USA. Modern students often study while multitasking, most commonly because of the use of digital communication like cell phones. Some situations vary as to how much they learn controls the way their education material is delivered and how it is paced. For example, in personal lectures, online text narratives, or audio learning. The researchers' hypothesis is that the effect of multitasking on learning is determined by interference. 3 experiments were done by noted authors that require students to read or listen to several short narratives and engage in 5 to 8 very short conversations to mimic instant messaging. This is important research to apply to the real-world education and learner success. Experiment 1. The purpose of this experiment was to examine the consequences of multitasking when studying the narrative text. Attention is given to the temporal structure of the situation. 109 graduate students from the University of California, San Diego participated for course credit in a within-subject comparison of 3 conditions while seated at an individual computer terminal. They each read 3 different passages experiencing a different multitasking condition each time. The 3 conditions were the read-only control without any interruption, multitasking condition with interruptions at paragraph breaks, and multitasking with random interruptions. The participants were instructed to learn as much information as possible for a future quiz. In the read-only condition, the passage was shown on a computer screen, 1 paragraph at a time, and after advancing to the next page, the participant was not allowed to return to the previous page. In the multitasking with paragraph break condition, opinion questions were displayed randomly on 5 out of 8 paragraph breaks, immediately after the participant clicked on the next button to advance to the new paragraph. In a multitasking at random condition, the interruptions occurred within a random 5 to 9 paragraphs between 5 and 15 seconds after they had started reading the paragraph. The secondary condition of the 2 multitasking conditions were the opinion questions about current events and topics of general conversation. They were about 1 to 3 sentences in length. After each participant finished reading each passage, they took a comprehensive test on the material, with questions presented one at a time. No previous question option or feedback on the correctness of the responses were given. After the last comprehensive test, each participant completed a questionnaire. In the questionnaire, participants self-reported personal practices regarding multitasking, like instant messaging and texting while studying. They responded with which articles they found interesting, as well as which conditions they thought they performed best in. Results of the study showed that multitasking only marginally increases total time spent reading the narratives. This occurs more so when interruptions occur at random times. Final memory was not significantly affected. In Figure 1 on the left, it shows the mean reading time as a function of study condition, control multitasking with paragraph breaks, and multitasking at random. There is a trend of increase in reading time. A repeated measures ANOVA was done and showed marginal significant effect of study condition. The only significant difference was between multitasking with random breaks and the control condition. Figure 2 on the right shows the mean comprehensive scores of minimal differences between conditions. A repeated measures ANOVA was done and showed no significant effect of the condition. The error bars in each of the figures represent 95% confidence interval. The questionnaire results showed that participants felt they performed best on the read-only condition and worse on the multitasking with random breaks condition. Interestingly, when participants were asked whether they thought that instant messaging while studying affects their memory of the material, 89% answered that they did. Even though the majority of the students seemed to believe that multitasking hurts their reading comprehension, 89% of the participants indicated that they still multitask sometimes or often while studying. Experiment 2. Multitasking with audio educational material delivery. The purpose of this experiment is the same as the questions in Experiment 1. The main difference was the educational tools were audio tapes and presented in spoken form. Otherwise, they use the same material, same conversational task, and same tests were performed. The procedure of this experiment was the same as in Experiment 1. Participants seated at a computer terminal and instructed that they would be listening to 3 passages under each condition: the listen-only condition, multitasking with paragraph breaks, and multitasking with random breaks. They were told that they would be sometimes interrupted to answer unrelated questions. The main goal is to retain as much information as possible for a future quiz. The order of conditions was individually randomized for each subject. The dependent variable was performance on comprehension questions and relating it to each passage. The participants in the listen-only condition listened to an audio presentation about 9 minutes long with no interruptions. In the multitasking with paragraph break condition, participants listened to the same audio presentation with 5 different interruptions between paragraph breaks. Lastly, in the multitasking at random condition, the interruptions were done randomly, but they are also predetermined as to not interfere with word recognition. The audio material was paused while a conversational task was performed and continued after the response was submitted. After participants finished listening to each passage, they each took a comprehensive test and questionnaire. Results of this experiment is seen in Figure 3. It shows that the differences between conditions were minimal. The error bars represent 95% confidence intervals. A repeated measure ANOVA was done, and it showed no significant effects of the study condition. The questionnaire had the same questions as in Experiment 1, but they were also asked about the students' use of podcasts or audiobooks during studying. The bar graph at the left shows that 46% said that they rarely use podcasts or other audio during studying, and 54% of the students reported that they used it sometimes or often. Majority of graduates thought that their comprehension was worse on the multitasking with random breaks, and that they performed best on the listening only condition. Another interesting result on the questionnaire is that 87% of the participants believed that instant messaging or text messaging while studying affected their recall memory. 67% of those students said that they still do it while studying. Experiment 3, a more real-world multitasking situation. This experiment was done to see the effect of interruptions on educational material without pausing of the educational material, while participants completed secondary conversational tasks. The within-subject comparison of 2 conditions, listen-only and multitasking at random, were done. The same audio material is used from Experiment 2, except the audio presentation did not stop when the person had to carry out a conversational task. Each participant listened to 2 audio passages, 1 in each condition. The order of passages was random for each participant. The dependent variable was the performance on the comprehensive questions related to each passage. In the listen-only condition, participants listened to a 9-minute passage without interruption. In the multitasking condition, at random, participants were given 5 pop-up questions with 40 seconds to respond. While responding, there was no way to pause or advance the audio passage. After listening to each passage, a comprehensive test followed, as well as a questionnaire. The results of this experiment showed an average comprehensive score, as shown in Figure 4. This shows a significant decrease in performance on comprehensive test for participants in the multitasking at random compared to the listen-only condition. A repeated measures ANOVA was done, and it showed a significant effect of the study condition, the difference agreeing with the Conan's effect size of 0.57, showing a medium-size effect. The conclusions to this study is that multitasking only significantly affects learners who do not have control over the presentation of educational material. The reduction of information learned occurs when educational material is delivered in spoken form and advances without waiting for the learner to complete the secondary communication tasks. When material is read at the student's own pace with the ability to pause before continuation, there was no significant reduction in information learned. Final memory recall for all the conditions had no significant effect on the comprehensive test. And even though 87% of the participants thought that instant messaging or texting while studying affected their memory recall for that material, they still reported that the multitasking was done sometimes or often while studying. Limitations of the study. Effects of the multitasking and the pause conditions are small. A more sensitive test may have disclosed more effect. It is impossible to ensure zero interruption. Further studies could use offset of interruption points to determine if proximity to the interruption point is associated with greater effects. Lastly, the participants were not required to create new contents of their own to show that they had retained long-term memory.